Good evening, everybody. This is Danny Thompson with the 3pointconversion.com, senior NBA writer, as well as I cover the Charlotte Hornets for the site as well too. And this is Let's Talk NBA. I've been getting a lot of requests to do this show, so every time I go on live for the Hornets post game show, if you've watched many times here on Haps.tv, that I do a Hornets post game show after every Hornets game, and there's always people in the chat asking other NBA questions. It's just been like that for the longest. So we're here live tonight, actually talking all things NBA tonight. It's kind of a light night in the NBA, normal compared Wednesday night. So follow me on Twitter. Let me start at the very beginning, all the social media hashtags and social media platforms, which will be at Danny DANNY number 3 Thompson on Twitter, as well as YouTube, Facebook, as well as check out Beyond the Buzzer, which is my regular show on Monday, on Thursday nights, myself and Kyle Nash at 9 p.m. Eastern time as well too. Also, check out the Hornets post-game show when the Hornets go back to basketball. Hopefully, it's on Saturday. They play Golden State. We'll talk about the Hornets. I won't speak too much into the Hornets tonight because I do that on a nightly basis. Also, why should you subscribe to Hats? Because just in case I do stuff like this, you know exactly where I'm going to jump online as well too. Also, Hats is a great platform that lets journalists like myself, as well as many others in all different genres, platforms, and even musicians jump on here to be able to broadcast different things on a regular basis. And also, when you sign for Haps as well too, you'll be able to get more content, as well as 100 coins for joining to support the work as well too. So also, if you're in the chat, which means that you're on YouTube, which you're on Reddit, which you're on Facebook, which you're on Twitter, Periscope, any place that you see a show live, always put a chat in the comments that you see out there. As my man Mike Patton always stops through, shouting out Ted Hicks. And yes, Ted, where are you? You've been saying this. Where is the NBA show? Where it's right here in front of you. So let's talk about the NBA. So first and foremost, we're not talking Hornets. Like I said, if I talk anything about the Hornets, it will be because we're talking about the Rookie of the Year chase outside LaMelo Ball. But let's get to the big story of the week, which is basically the NBA All-Star starters will be announced tomorrow, 7 p.m. I think on TNT. They're going to announce the starters. For the most part, the stars aren't going to change very much in each conference. We're going to pretty much be seeing the Western Conference main guys. Now, mind you, with the NBA All-Star game, it's in Atlanta. It's really, I've talked about it before, my thoughts about the All-Star game. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't think it should be played at all. I think that these guys should have the time to be sitting at home, spending time with their families. It's a week off. The stringent testing, not being around your family, it's just been a weird year. Guys are catching COVID. It's taking tolls on different players. I mean, you saw with Jason Tatum, so he's just now getting back over COVID. Karl-Anthony Towns, not to mention he had COVID, and not to mention he lost 6 family members due to COVID. We have players like LeBron James and De'Aaron Fox and Giannis and other guys not really, Terry Rozier, among others, not really wanting to have the All-Star game. They think that there's other priorities around the league other than the All-Star game. Hell, you even had the mayor of Atlanta saying this is not a spot where you want to come to. We're not throwing parties. We're just basically this is a made-for-TV event. Speaking of made TV events, this is really basically what it's about. It's about television. If you look at last year, TNT made $14 million in sponsorship money and everything else on the game on Sunday. And if you count the dunk contest on Saturday, the three-point competition, you look at almost a $25 million weekend for Turner, which is basically something they need to satisfy the broadcast partners, which pays a good part of the NBA salaries, because guess what? Only 13 teams have fans right now, and no team, I think, is over 3,000 in any capacity at any point in time. So the NBA's got to make money back somehow. I don't like the idea. A lot of guys don't like the idea. And the real question is, when it comes to guys that are selected, are they going to play? Are they really wanting to be there? I mean, I'm sure. I mean, De'Aaron Fox said it at first that he didn't really want to be there, but it's an honor to go because a lot of guys really want to be All-Stars. This is just the wrong year to have an All-Star game. And of all the places, Atlanta is not even going to make the situation worse. But who am I? I don't make those decisions, and it's way out of my pay grade. But when the second results came back in, was on the 11th of the month. So let's look at the fan voting and let's see if there's anything that could potentially change before the announcement happens tomorrow. So let's start in the Western Conference. LeBron James has already got almost 4.4 million votes. Him and Nikola Jokic are pretty much signed, sealed, delivered into the All-Star game. The major switch last week was the fact that Kawhi Leonard has caught Anthony Davis, which is kind of a good thing. And the reason being that with Anthony Davis having a quote unquote calf injury right now, it is kind of good for the Lakers star not to be selected at all because he's going to be out. No one knows the length of time of Anthony Davis's injury. No one knows it. So the good news is that if he's not selected, that means he ain't really got to play either. So that's a good sign for that. As Mike Patton says in the chat, the All-Star game is a money. Yeah, we kind of got dropped here for a second. My man Elliot Broadus in the chat says, "Show me the money." Listen, I agree that too. That NBA is really about the money. Like I said, 25 million and television money was what it really was. By the way, if you're watching the show on Haps or any other social media platform and you want to drop something in the collection plate, by all means, drop something in, even if it's 10 cents. Everything is really appreciated. Like, share, and tag as well too. All right, now. Outside of Anthony Davis in the Western Conference, no one else is going to catch the top three because once you get past Anthony Davis at 2.3 million votes and Kawhi Leonard's at 2.5, Paul George is over at 1 million votes. So he's not going to catch Anthony Davis. He's not catching Kawhi Leonard. So if Davis doesn't catch him in the final week, it looks like it's going to be James Jokic and Kawhi Leonard, which I think all three guys are deserving of the All-Star team starters. Now, in the Western Conference, Steph Curry has over 4 million votes. So guess what? He'll be making his return to the All-Star game after missing last season due to injury. Luka Doncic is starting in the All-Star game more likely. He's about 500,000 votes in front of Damian Lillard. So that's pretty much the split there. Donovan Mitchell, and I'll talk about Mitchell's MVP candidacy in a second. He is literally about 1.5 million votes behind Dame Lillard. So unless Dame somehow catches Luka next, I don't know, last couple of days, it's not happening. So it's like Curry and Doncic is going to be the backcourt in the Western Conference. In the Eastern Conference side of things, okay, Kevin Durant, he's at 4.2 million votes, so he's going to get in. Giannis at 3.2, he's going to get in. And I think Embiid's at a little more than 3.1 million. The next closest person is Jason Tatum at 1.7 million. So Tatum's not going to catch Embiid. So Giannis, Durant, and Embiid are going to be a starting front court. In the backcourt, Bradley Beal's at almost 2.6 million votes, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get in. Kyrie Irving got his late surge to pass his teammate James Harden. Kyrie Irving's at 2.1 million, and James Harden's at 1.8 million. Jaylen Brown's a little bit more than 1.1 million, so he's not going to catch either one of the two. So expect Beal and Irving to join Durant, Giannis, and Embiid in the front court. All right, so I appreciate that, Mike Pat, for dropping 50 cents in the collection plate. I appreciate that. All right, so let's talk about, since we already got the starters out the way, let's talk about the reserves. Now, for those who don't know how the reserves work, the reserves are picked by the coaches and also picked by members of the media. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those votes, so I couldn't tell you where I would vote, but I would tell you who I would vote for in this situation. Now, as of right now, we don't think we're playing the captain's game. I think we're doing East versus West. So I don't think there'll be a team, was it in the Western Conference? It'd be Team LeBron going against Team KD in the East. So I don't think that would have been the matchup as of right now. They haven't said about captains yet. I don't think they're still going to do it anyway. So let's talk about who should be the reserves at this point. We'll start out East. All right, since we talked about the West when it came to voting, let's start at the East when it comes to the reserves. So you got 7 spots. So if you look at the 7 spots, James Harden's going to get one of them. If he doesn't catch Kyrie Irving for voting, James Harden's going to get one. And to Mike Patton's point, Jaylen Brown should be number 2. All right, so both those guys are your two guards. Your two guards. All right. So more likely you'll take 2 guards and look at the 3 front court players. Jason Tatum is going to more likely be one of them. Domantas Sabonis has had a phenomenal season in Indiana. You can't leave him off the ballot either. So I think Sabonis is one. I think Tatum's had, even though he's been fighting COVID, Tatum's been really, really good this year. Got to give him credit there. Now, for me, if I'm voting, I think the third front court player is the Knicks' Julius Randle. I said in the beginning, I was kind of not bullish on him in the beginning of the season, but Julius Randle's really put up some phenomenal numbers this year. Okay. Randle's playing his best basketball of the year. And the good news for Knicks fans is, as we're talking about this, we're talking right now, the Knicks are actually in the 6th place in the Eastern Conference. We're talking about things that have gone crazy over the year. The Knicks, who are the 30th, the 3rd worst scoring team in the NBA, is actually 14th in the Eastern Conference because guess what? They have the number 1 defense the entire league. If Tom Thibodeau's done one thing right, he gets these guys to play defense. The problem is they ain't scoring the basketball either, which is kind of weird. But Randle this year, his numbers have been off the charts this year: 23 points, 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists a game. Listen, the Knicks are winning and they're in the playoffs, so give him his props for being the All-Star game. All right, now that leaves 2 spots remaining in the Eastern Conference. So I think the 2 spots that always should be the 2 best players that are not in by positions. All right. So to me, when you look at it, it's like, okay, do you pick guys from the best teams in the East? Do you pick guys that are on better records, or you pick guys with big stat numbers? So if you look at guys with big stat numbers, you're going to think of Trae Young in Atlanta. You're going to think of Zach LaVine in Chicago, who's putting up outstanding numbers in most years as an all-star. Are you talking about guys that have made their teams better, like Gordon Hayward in Charlotte? You got to talk about what he's done. I mean, you got to look at Chris Middleton in Milwaukee because he's always there. You got Ben Simmons in Philadelphia because Philadelphia is the best team in the Eastern Conference. Other all-star idea guys you should thinking of, well, I'd say this, even a dark horse guy like Bam Adebayo. I'd say dark horse because Miami's not back in 10th. So here are the guys I have, the 2 spots. One of them is going to go to somebody who's completely underrated. And I think to me, he's one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA, and that's Indiana's Malcolm Brogdon. He should have been an All-Star last year. Appreciate your donation, Ted. But you look at what Malcolm Brogdon has done in Indiana. Listen, he's been one of the best players one of the most underrated players, and a guy that gets no love anywhere he goes. I mean, Milwaukee, he won Rookie of the Year from a second-round pick spot, and then once you do that, he's went to Indiana and has played really, really well ever since then. This year, his numbers might not be as good as it was the year before, but listen to this. Indiana is missing TJ Warren. Like I said, Sabonis is a monster, and Miles Turner is blocking shots everywhere. And Turner also deserves some kind of all-star consideration for the way he's dominated the block shot category. But what Brogdon has done so far this year, 21 points, 6 assists, almost 5 rebounds a game. He's always been super efficient in what he's done. His numbers are always super efficient. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to he's not going to drop 40 points a game. But when you look at the stat sheet at the end of the night, you're like, man, Malcolm Brogdon had 25 points and you didn't even realize it. He's that good. He's really, really that good as a basketball player. So I think he gets 1 spot. I mean, Brogdon's numbers are up over last year, where he didn't even, like I say, he dropped in 21 a game this year, 5 points a game higher than it was last year. The assist numbers a little bit down. Rebounds are right about the same. He's even averaging a steal a game as well, too. So that's 1. The second spot, like I said, you really have to think about, okay, who deserves it? Is it numbers? Is it style of play? Or do you take another guard if you're in the East? So I think when it comes down to it, the last spot should go to a forward. And as rough as me to say this, I'd say Bam Adebayo deserves it, even though Jimmy Butler's come on of late. Adebayo has been the best player in Miami all year. Miami struggled due to injuries, due to COVID. Adebayo is a star player, and I like what Bam has been doing. I appreciate you, Precious, for sponsoring with the I Appreciate You award. I appreciate you as well, too. And Ted, like I said, I appreciate you for appreciating me as well. So I have Miles Turner and I have Bam Adebayo my final 2 spots in the Eastern Conference. I think that both of them deserve it. As much as I love Zach LaVine, I think LaVine should be on there. Trae Young had a 40-point game tonight. I think he deserves a lot of consideration. Gordon Hayward in Charlotte has helped transform Charlotte into a playoff team as well, too. Like I said, Pascal Siakam could get a lot of love here as well. But like I said, the Tampa Raptors have been up and down all year, so I can't give him that spot this year. If they would have been winning, I would have done it. Chris Middleton's, like I said, another guy I also gave consideration to in my last spots. All right, let's talk about the Western Conference. We mentioned the 5 starters in the Western Conference. So who is going to be joining those guys in the Western Conference, or who should join them? All right, we'll start in the backcourt first. Damian Lillard and Donovan Mitchell should be there. I don't think that's not even a question. Lillard and Mitchell both have full-fledged candidacies to start. They both deserve to start. I don't think there should be no reason why they shouldn't start. But since Curry and Doncic will be voted by the fans and more likely media, well, like I said, the fans will have their 1 vote. Lillard will have to win the media vote in order to get in the starting lineup. Lillard and Mitchell are my backups. when it comes to the guard position. Let's talk the forward position. All right, I'm going to rule Anthony Davis as an all-star, but I don't expect Anthony Davis to even play 1 second as All-Star game. I think he'll be selected, but he won't play. It's just one of those injury situations. The Lakers aren't going to let him play in the All-Star game. Nothing this meaningless. I'd be surprised if we see Anthony Davis back before WrestleMania, if you're a big wrestling fan. I don't think we see him back until probably, I would say, first part of April. I don't think he comes back anytime soon. Lakers aren't going to risk a championship for this guy playing meaningless basketball games in the month of March. All right. So what does that leave the other front court spots? If this would have been 3 weeks ago, about maybe 4 weeks ago, I would say Christian Wood should have got every bit of consideration for the spot. But Christian Wood's been out with ankle injuries and is not day to day, not month to month, not day to day, not game to game. He is week to week. With him being out, his spot's gone. Paul George of the LA Clippers, he's missed his share of games, but Paul George has been Paul George. He's been one of the best players. He's still one of the best players in the entire league. He's still one of the best two-way players in the league. I think he deserves to be there as well. All right. Those two guys, like I said, those two guys are there, and I'll pick Anthony Davis injury replacement in a second. Other guys you have to look at as all-stars. All right. When you look at what the Utah Jazz done with Rudy Gobert down low, the Jazz are 23-5. They deserve a second player in the All-Star game, and Gobert deserves to be there as the second big there. I think he goes as well, too. So that leaves now the two spots left. So what two players have done enough to be All-Stars? All right. Well, I'm going to say this. People are going to probably fry me for this one. But what De'Aaron Fox has done in Sacramento is I think De'Aaron Fox is playing his best basketball of his career. De'Aaron Fox is only reason why people don't talk about De'Aaron Fox as one of the better players in the league because he plays in Sacramento. De'Aaron Fox's numbers have gone through the roof this year. He's at almost 24 points a game. He's almost at 7 assists, 3.5 rebounds a game on a team that not too many people pay attention to. But De'Aaron Fox is really good. I mean, he's a terror on both ends of the court. People know about his defensive ability because he also, his steals are up there. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in the league. And guess what? His usage rate is out is eccentric. Is off the charts. But his numbers are really, really good this year. Like I said, his points a game are up. Assist totals right there. I mean, he's not turning the ball over as much as he used to. And the Kings are a little bit better than what they have. I let De'Aaron Fox in the All-Star game. People are going to probably frickin' see me for this one. But I give De'Aaron Fox a lot of credit for what he's done this year. I think low-key he has been an All-Star this year. One of the reasons why the Kings have been good this year is because of De'Aaron Fox. And they're right there when it comes to the All-Star chase. Now, the last spot is kind of up in the air because when you look at the Phoenix Suns and what the Phoenix Suns have done, you talk about what Chris Paul has done and what Devin Booker's done. Both of them have had outstanding seasons. Chris Paul just makes a team better everywhere he goes. Like I said, CJ McCollum would have been an all-star consideration a lot of years, but the problem is CJ's out. So I don't give a second spot to the Golden State Warriors because Draymond Green's Draymond Green. Andrew Wiggins has been playing a lot better basketball, but I'll say this. The guy that I look at it, and you look at league leaders, and I'm not a big guy on league leaders, but I think when it comes down to it, who has been an all-star this year? Listen, I like Chris Paul. Chris Paul of the Clippers, of the Suns, his numbers aren't there, but I mean he's an all-star almost every single year. There's nothing much more you can say about Chris Paul, and the fact of, listen, they're 17-10. I think you got to have a team, a guy representing Phoenix. I mean, if you give it to Devin Booker, I'm okay with it. But Chris Paul, when he's been on the floor, has been once again the general, in all different cases as well. Oh, we have a vision in the background. If you're going to open the door, at least come say hi. My fiance Precious in the background. You saw her from Hampton. She's not saying hello from Hampton. She's saying hello from the other room. All right. So I'm choosing Chris Paul a little bit over De'Aaron Fox. Over Devin Booker. Other guys I consider for the All-Star considerations. Listen, you can't, like I said, there's so many guys out west missing. Karl-Anthony Towns has been missing for a good number of part of the season. D'Angelo Russell's been missing. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Oklahoma State have been pretty much bad all year. John Wall has been quietly really, really good this year, but I don't think his numbers have been better than, his play hasn't been better than De'Aaron Fox. Kristaps Porzingis, he's been up and down. He could get another forward spot if they use him in the forward position area. I just like I said, I give it to Chris Paul at this point. But I don't I don't know. Like I said, there's other guys that could deserve consideration. It's not a third Clipper this year. There's not a third Laker. Um, yeah, but those are my all-star picks. So since we're going from picks, let's talk about guys that no one really talks about. We talked about the guys that don't have a lot of love, a lot of guys that don't get the top billing a lot of people talk about. And those are some of the most underrated players in the league. And I'm gonna start, like I said, we talked about how good Malcolm Brogdon is, but let's talk about guys who are also underrated that don't get the love and don't get the love on the sports centers or don't get the love around the league, but people know about him. I mean, Sabonis is one of them. Like I said, you have um Mike, whatever. No, and when you look at that, how good Domantas Sabonis is, and I'll talk about Malcolm Brogdon. Sabonis doesn't get very much love anywhere across the NBA landscape or the NBA stratosphere of what he does on a nightly basis. The man's a walking double-double. He's a 20 and 10 guy almost every single night. He's a great passer. Now, it's funny is he's the second best passer in his family because his dad was still an outstanding passer. But Sabonis has been, as many guys in the league say, is probably arguably one of the strongest players in the entire league. Like his hand strength is completely on a complete different charts, and he does that with soft touch anywhere from around the rim. Other guys that I like that don't get a lot of pub, that don't get top billing, or don't even get mentioned in a lot of ways. Some of my favorite players around the league when it comes to, at this point in the year when it comes to being underrated. Like I said, I mentioned Julius Randle in New York. Like I said, I'm one of the hardest people on Julius Randle because he turns the ball over so much, but he's had an impact for New York this year. I think his impact is almost the same type of impact, and don't get me wrong when I say this, is the same impact Amari Stoudemire had when Amari got to New York. He's putting up these big numbers. He's putting up things left and right, and the Knicks are a contending team. They really are contending. Like they're contending for a playoff spot 30 games into the season, and they're one of the biggest surprises in the NBA because no one would have thought the Knicks would literally be right there in front of everything. It's just he's been a different player all year. I remember in our 3-point conversion chat, my main man Alan Fields was talking about how good Randle's been, how Randle was the All-Star, the first 2 weeks of the season. I might slow down first couple of weeks, but he's been there. He's really, really been good. And the Knicks, behind Tom Thibodeau, have been really, really good as well, too. So another guy that flies under the radar, a guy that doesn't get a lot of respect, even with him making his first All-Star appearance here, is Jaylen Brown in Boston. People talk about Jason Tatum on a nightly basis, but I think Jaylen Brown might be the best player in Boston. Even though Tatum gets the love, he worked with Kobe, but there's just something different about Jaylen Brown. He's not only a super athlete when it comes to on the wing, he's developed a three-point shot. He can defend, and he's not afraid to take it to the rim. He's a three-level scorer, can do it all different phases. And Jaylen Brown arguably might be one of the best players in the league. I think by the time it's all said and done, could be a top 25 player in this entire league at season's end. Mike, we're going to talk about Mayo quick because I'm going to get to rookies as well, too. We're just talking about guys that just don't get a lot of pub, a lot of talk. Another one is Toronto's Fred VanVleet. When we talk about the Tampa Toronto Raptors, people talk about Pascal Siakam, people talk about Kyle Lowry, but to me, the best player on this team is Fred VanVleet. Listen, Mr. Better himself is one of the best players in the league. He bets on himself on a regular basis, and when you bet on himself, he bets on himself. There's no one better in the league than Fred VanVleet. Arguably one of my favorite guys as far as when it comes to just doing the little things. He's a dynamic point guard, shooting guard type of player, can fill both roles and plays perfectly next to my main man Kyle Lowry up in Toronto, Tampa, whatever I call him. Mike Patton, Dwayne Wade said Jaylen Brown has been playing Jaylen Brown's playing at a whole different level. Jaylen Brown's just been flat out phenomenal all year. So I gotta love the way Jaylen Brown's been playing this year too. So other guys that don't get the love, listen, Nikola Vucevic in Orlando, he's made the All-Star team the last couple of years. But the one thing about Nikola Vucevic is that Orlando started the year 4-0. Markelle Fultz gets hurt, and then the season goes down the toilet. But the one guy that hasn't gone down the toilet this year, with all the injuries in Orlando, because they've lost a ton of guys, has been Vucevic. If Orlando would have been a better team, Vucevic would be getting All-Star love and All-Star consideration right now. Vucevic has been a walking double-double ever since he's been in Orlando. The difference is Vucevic might be one of the 3 to 5 best players in franchise history. In Magic franchise history, the only difference is that as far as big guys go, he never had the supporting cast that Dwight Howard or Shaquille O'Neal has had in his time. Vucevic has been playing with semi decent to okay players throughout his career, and Vucevic has been putting up literally 25 and 10 and 26 and 14. You see the numbers he puts up. Tonight he only had 8 of 14 for the floor, but he was 16 for 6. He has 16.16 rebounds, and Vucevic has been doing this on a nightly basis. Just Orlando just doesn't get. They don't really play very. Well, they just hadn't played well all year. Let's shift things out west, guys that are completely not talked about, unsung. Listen, as much flack as we've given Andrew Wiggins over the years, the guy came in, baby Canada, baby maple syrup, whatever you want to call him, throughout his years when he was in the high school ranks. Everybody thought he was the next big one. He went to Kansas. He was number one player in Kansas, high school. Expected to do big things. Was a high draft pick in the NBA. And Wiggins has never lived up to the expectations people expect him to be because he just doesn't put it all together. He's got super length. At times, he's a lockdown defender. He's also at times a big time scorer. But this year, more than ever, we saw him do it a little bit last year. But mind you, Golden State was a different team last year. But Wiggins has now settled in this year, and I know he had almost a 25-point a game season a few years ago in Minnesota. But to me, even though Wiggins' number is at 18 points and 5 rebounds a game this season, this might be Wiggins' best full-fledged season because he's doing it on both ends. Maybe it's the Steve Kerr factor. He's just doing it on both ends of the court, which is a good thing to see. His field goal, he's shooting a career high in field goal percentage. His 3-point accuracy has been the best it's been. His defensive skills, the steals aren't there, but his blocks have gone up. His defensive rating has gone up. It just seems like Steve Kerr has kind of unlocked a different part of Andrew Wiggins' game that we haven't seen. He's now turned into a really, really good two-way player. I know, like I said, he put up almost 24 points a game his third year in Minnesota, but Wiggins catches a lot because people don't think that he lived up to his expectations out of high school. But he's really, really been good this year. Mike Patton in the chat says his nickname was Mr. Consistent by him. Listen, it's Mr. He hasn't put it all together. But I think now at this point in his career, he's putting it all together. And Wiggins is, like I said, he's actually low-key all-star, even though all-star consideration, even though his numbers don't look like it was the last couple of years. Other guys that don't get the love all-star-wise, just around the league-wise, when you talk about guys that put up big numbers, a guy that doesn't get much love around this league is the guy I mentioned earlier that should be an all-star in the NBA this year, but probably won't get it, is the Bulls' Zach LaVine. I know we're talking about the Western Conference, but when we talk about, like I said, LaVine and Wiggins played together in Minnesota, and Zach LaVine's doing things in Chicago that the last time this stuff happens, there was number 23 sitting in Chicago. Zach LaVine this year has just been everywhere. He's been a terror offensively, and guess what? He's also playing defense. If you watch the game tonight against the Pistons, he forced Jeremy Grant into one of the worst passes I've seen in a while. On top of what he's been doing offensively, because we know he's an offensive monster, his defense has gone from turnstile, basically traffic cone, to literally being out there on a nightly, actually being an effective defender out there. Maybe it's Billy Donovan just is tapping into his defensive skills, but what we have seen from Zach LaVine is, listen, Zach this year is at 51, 44. He's over 50, 40, 80, 51, 43, and 85 this year. One of, I think, 3 guys in the NBA even close to that this year. LaVine, listen, 29, almost 6 and 6 a game. In most years, that's a definite all-star around him. And, the Bulls, for as inconsistent as the Bulls been this year, the Bulls have a lot of talent on this roster. The Bulls have some really, really good players this year. I think once they get it all together, and tonight, it was funny how they came back. I know it was the Detroit Pistons on the schedule, but they were down 25 at one point in this game, and LaVine and company erased that lead. Give credit to Billy Donovan in the second half of the game tonight because he benched the younger guys, which was your Wendell Carter Jr.'s and your Patrick Williams, and then guess what? They started chipping back in the lead with Garrett Temple and Tomas Satoransky, and the veterans brought him back in, and you saw that, guess what? Putting those guys on the bench, Kobe White and putting those guys on the bench actually kind of worked, because guess what happened? When it came down to the end of the game, Patrick Williams knocked down a couple of big threes at the end of the game. And Scott Albert in the chat says LaMelo. I'm assuming that's got to be LaMelo Ball, because it can't be Lonzo. And we'll talk LaMelo Ball in a second, because the rookie of the year chase is coming up. We got to figure out, is anybody going to catch LaMelo Ball and who has the best chance of doing it. A few more guys, they just fly under the radar. For me, as far as flying under the radar, I got a guy out in, listen, he doesn't put up big numbers, but when I say flies under the radar is the fact of he doesn't put up big numbers, but the numbers he does put up has been really, really solid and effective. And that's Christian Wood of the Houston Rockets. I mean, when I say big numbers, I mean, he's putting up 23 and I think it was 22 and 10 before he got hurt. But the consistency of watching Christian Wood from a guy that he was bouncing around from team to team to team, and he went to Detroit, and then next thing you know, he starts playing when Andre Drummond was traded. And then people say, okay, well, he just did that because of this guy and that guy. Now he's in Houston putting up these numbers, and people are wondering, oh, where's this guy been? Why did the Celtics sign him? Why didn't teams like Charlotte sign him in the offseason? He played in Charlotte one time before. The contending teams, like, why he didn't sign with the Lakers? It was like, where is this guy last year? This guy's been sitting around there. He's just been untapped potential everywhere. All right, let's talk. Speaking of untapped potential, let's talk Rookie of the Year. LaMelo Ball is running away with the Rookie of the Year category, because guess what? He's owning every single category that's known to man. The real talk now is, can anybody catch LaMelo Ball, since we're about a good third of the way through the season? I got 5 guys that have the chance to potentially make this interesting. I'm not saying they catch LaMelo Ball, because the way LaMelo Ball has been playing over the last month and a half, since the season started, no one's catching LaMelo Ball at this point. But let's play a fictional game of who's going to try to catch LaMelo Ball. Nobody in particular order. I'm going to go with 5 guys that have the best chance of doing it. Number 1 is the guy who was picked first overall in the draft, and that's Anthony Edwards. Take away the game tonight. He didn't shoot very well. It is what it is. You have those shooting games as rookies, but go back to the previous night where they played the Lakers and we dropped 28, including some big plays on LeBron James. Anthony Edwards is a scorer. He's going to have plenty of chances to score now with D'Angelo Russell out literally for the next 6 weeks. Minnesota's not getting any better, and now Minnesota's coming to a crossroads right now. And when I say crossroads, is that if D'Angelo Russell can't get healthy, they traded for him almost 2 years ago. Him and Karl-Anthony Towns have played less than 10 games together on the court together. They're best of friends. But at some point, is it time to make a trade? It could be time to make a trade. Whether it be Karl-Anthony Towns, whether it be D'Angelo Russell. If Anthony Edwards can show over the next 6 weeks that he is a big-time scoring threat, on top of what they have with Malik Beasley, you can probably find something for Karl-Anthony Towns. I think it's kind of blasphemous to trade him, but I think at some point maybe it might be time to move on from D'Angelo Russell if he can't get it together. But for the next 6 weeks, Anthony Edwards is going to have a green light. And when you give a guy who can score different levels of green light, he's starting to improve his three-point shot, Edwards can get it done. I think that's one guy. Another guy is Saddiq Bey of the Detroit Pistons. Like, people say, where's Saddiq Bey come from? Well, last week he was NBA Eastern Conference Player of the Week last year with the Pistons with 3-1. And now Blake Griffin is going to be sitting until they trade him. And I'll get to Blake Griffin in a minute. Bey has come in. He's going to take the power forward role. There's not much left in our front line. Jeremy Grant scored 40-plus points tonight, but he can't do it every night. Someone else is going to pick up the scoring slack. Derrick Rose is in New York. Killian Hayes is still injured. There's no other scorers in the team. The cupboard's completely empty. You're relying on DeLon Wright, among other guys, to score the basketball. This is the perfect time for Saddiq Bey, a one-and-done guy at Villanova, to step into that role. And he can do it. He's very strong, a lot stronger than people think. He can play the 3 and the 4. I think he has he has a really, really good chance, especially with Blake Griffin's quote-unquote not coming back anytime soon, to make some headways. We all talk about how good Tyrese Haliburton has been in Sacramento. He's closing out games with De'Aaron Fox and Buddy Hield in the games. And listen, Haliburton is making it really hard for teams that passed him over in the first round to say, man, we made a mistake. I had him in my mock draft, literally going forward to Chicago. I had him going forward to Chicago. There were other teams that should have taken him, New York, Detroit, but they passed on him. And Halliburton slid down to Sacramento. And listen, Halliburton's closing out games. He's had some huge fourth quarters, and as long as the Kings are in it, and Halliburton's playing fourth quarter minutes, I think he's second among rookies. I think in minutes now, if Ball hasn't caught him by now. I think he was second or third in as far as rookie in minutes. He's not a guy who's going to give you 30 points a game, but what he does is we look at that stat sheet in the night. It's 15 points, 15 rebounds, 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists, a couple of 3-pointers. He just does the little things. He'll kill a steal or two, play some good defense. He'll play right around 30 minutes a game. He's really been consistent with it all year. So maybe his consistency might try to catch LaMelo Ball. Guy number 3 on the list. Listen, we talked about Anthony Edwards. We talked about Tyrese Halliburton, Saddiq Bey. Here's another guy. I was going to say Cole Anthony's on his list, but now he fractured his rib and won't be out probably to the All-Star game. So there goes the opportunity. Of course, Orlando's all scoring they can possibly get. All right. He's now out the window. You can look at the rest of the first round picks. James Wiseman is just James Wiseman. We don't really know. He's not going to do too much because centers really don't have big roles in the Golden State offense. Patrick Williams is really coming on in Chicago, but because of Zach LaVine, his big usage rate, and Kobe White, I think Pat had 19 points tonight. I don't expect him to be, much more than about 10 to 12 point a game score. I give him that. But here's a couple of other guys. Another guy I really do like. Listen, when it comes to Saddiq Bey has definitely flown in the radar. Yeah, 19 teams passed him up, so it's another guy that should see something. I think another guy on this list that should make a run is a guy that wasn't even drafted in the first round. That's Jason Tate of the Houston Rockets. Had 19 points tonight. Jason Tate has now stepped in and has actually turned into a big scoring role. He plays the small forward position for the Houston Rockets. A guy that I think he played at Houston, I want to say, was college-wise. Tate's a guy that is inside and outside, a 3-and-D guy. His game reminds me a lot of DeAndre Hunter of the Atlanta Hawks when he first got in the league. He's become a much better shooter, a much better wing defender. He's a guy that's been really, really quiet all year. He's now stepping into a bigger spot because of the fact that Victor Oladipo and John Wall can't play consistent minutes, can't play a consistent number of games because of trying to be, load managing, and Eric Gordon only is good 50 games, whether it's an 82-game season or not. I love the way Jason Tate's been playing. Like I said, I love these guys that just come in and hustle and do the little things. Like I said, he's one of the most undervalued rookies in the entire class. Last but not least, listen, I know Immanuel Quickley has been when the Knicks decided to trade for Derrick Rose, every Knicks fan wondered what the hell they're going to do with Immanuel Quickley. Quickley should be in the starting lineup. All right. There should be no ifs, ands, buts about it. Elfrid Payton shouldn't be in this rotation. Immanuel Quickley has every legitimate chance to be a Rookie of the Year candidate, but the problem is his head coach loves Derrick Rose, so it's not going to happen. But Quickley should be an All-NBA rookie this year. Quickley has been putting up, when he was getting consistent looks at the court, he does play well. He's averaging 12 points a game this season. He's more of a scoring guard than a point guard, but he puts up really, really good numbers. He's been solid. Field goal percentage hasn't been good, but he does get to the line, shoots almost 95% from the line. He doesn't turn the ball over, which is good because it only gives you 3 assists a game. But I love the way Immanuel Quickley's been playing. And the part about Immanuel Quickley is that he's only playing 20 minutes a game. I wish that Tom Thibodeau would go against his rookie thought process and really just unleash this kid. Because you unleash Quickley and let him and Derrick Rose play together like they're doing now. I just mentioned they're playing really well together. If he lets Quickley just play next to Rose or just play in general and give him increase that minute load to about maybe 25, 26 a game, the Knicks can really consistently stay up there in that playoff chase in the Eastern Conference. Other rookies were having good starts this year. Like I said, I mentioned Jason Tate at 10 points and 5 rebounds a game. Listen, this guy's been really, really good. Other rookies like I said, Patrick Williams in Chicago should get a lot of run. The scoring numbers are going to be off. I mentioned Cole Anthony. Because of his injury, it's not really going to help himself. A guy I expect to have a better second half is Washington's Deni Avdija. Listen, he's struggling. I think Washington started to put it together because guess what? The Wizards have won 3 games in a row. For as bad as the Wizards have been, Listen, the Wizards are putting it all together right now. They've won 3 straight. I think he's another guy in the second half of the season that could potentially get himself going. None of these guys are going to catch LaMelo Ball because the only thing that's going to take LaMelo Ball out of the Rookie of the Year situation is an injury or the fact that James Borrego just stops playing him. Neither one's going to happen anytime soon. All right. Speaking of things that are not going to happen soon, let's talk about Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin. These 2 former teammates are now basically on the trading block. One has a free agency deal at the end of everything, and the second one is owed almost $60 million over the next 2 years. The bad part is Andre Drummond puts up some of the best numbers in the NBA, but if you look at what Andre Drummond has accomplished in the NBA, he's only played in 8 playoff games, and his team has lost all 8 of them. I don't want to say Andre Drummond does play with empty stats, but Andre Drummond he puts up numbers. The Pistons have just never won anything. So I'm a team, and if you look at what he got traded for last year, let's be honest. He got traded for, if you look what Cleveland got for him in the deal last year, Cleveland really just gave away an Albert Bell jersey, the tape of the fumble, and an old school LeBron James high school jerseys. What he got in the deal for Andre Drummond. They literally gave up a second-round pick in the expiring contracts of Brandon Knight and John Henson. 2 guys were never going to see the court. They thought the experiment between Drummond and Kevin Love was going to work. 2 guys that plod the paint it's never going to work in the NBA. All right? It's just not going to work. Now the Cavs ended up getting Jarrett Allen, who is a lot younger, a hell of a lot cheaper, and listen, at this point, he fits the youth movement of what Cleveland's doing. So Andre Drummond is now sitting out there wondering where's he going to go? Well, it's hard to trade for Andre Drummond because he's being paid $28 million, and you got to match the salaries. So it takes away almost 99% of the teams that really are interested in trading for him at this point. Because if I'm a team with expiring contracts, unless Andre Drummond is getting me to the championship, I'm willing to let my expired contracts expire. Charlotte, before this happens. Now the real question is, him and his team are trying to get a buyout with the Cavs. That's great. Because if he's a buyout option, then that means there's only 3 teams in the NBA that are going to chase after him, and one of them is the Brooklyn Nets. I think he'll end up in Brooklyn. For the teams attempting to trade for Andre Drummond, here's the reason why I think it's kind of a buyer's beware market. If he was traded for second-round picks last year, do you really think the value's changed much since he's been in Cleveland? Cleveland hasn't won much of anything, and they have won is because of that backcourt, not because of Andre Drummond. It's because of the way Larry Nance was playing before he hurt himself. It's not because of Andre Drummond. It's because the young kids are actually having fun. It's not because of Andre Drummond. Mike Patton, Boston has a trade exception. The trade exception you have with Gordon Hayward does not cover Andre Drummond's salary. It doesn't cover it. I think it falls like $2 million short. It doesn't cover it completely. So if Boston were to look into another option, I'm just saying if they were to trade for something, it could be like a Harrison Barnes type of player out of Sacramento. They go absorb that exception. As far as a center goes, that could be moved. They can possibly go back and reacquire Al Horford from Oklahoma City if they wanted to go for the big man direction, if they wanted to do it that way to absorb the trade exception. I don't expect Andre Drummond to be traded anytime soon, unless maybe the Raptors, if they think they can make a run with Drummond. Chris Boucher, for as good as he is, Chris Boucher also gets in foul trouble on a consistent basis. So you got to have a backup big because Aaron Baines has not been worth the hill of beans he signed for. So maybe Toronto, Tampa could be that team to go for him. I've got this question asked a lot about Andre Drummond and the Charlotte Hornets. Why aren't the Hornets pursuing Andre Drummond? Here is the underlying problem in Charlotte. Charlotte only has $9 million in cap space. So in order to trade for Andre Drummond, you're going to have to come up with right around $18 million in cap space. You got to give $18 million in salary away. All right. So what do you give away? Cody Zeller is on an expiring contract right around $15 million. So that's one thing you can give away. You can give away Malik Monk. And then you'll probably have to give away maybe one of the Martin twins or something else to make the salaries match to make sure everything is best. For a team like Charlotte that doesn't have depth anyway, why would you pull this deal off? And 2, if you're Cleveland, why would you want Cody Zeller? Why would you want Bismack Biyombo when you got 37 other centers sitting on the roster? All right, here's why Charlotte doesn't make this move. Because when you trade for Andre Drummond and you give away what little depth you already have anyway, does Andre Drummond make the Charlotte Hornets better? No. It doesn't make him better because does Andre Drummond get Charlotte out of the play-in game scenario, which means you're finishing between 7th and 10th? No, they're not better, not one of the 6 best teams in the Eastern Conference. Andre Drummond. So now you're basically trying to play run and gun with a whole bunch of guys who are running and Andre Drummond at the center position. Yes, Charlotte is arguably the worst rebounding team in the league, and they get killed on the boards on a nightly basis. That is part of playing small ball. That is the whole big part about it. PJ Washington is out of the position. Cody Zeller is Cody Zeller. Bismack Biyombo is Bismack Biyombo. We all know what X, Y, and Z means, but how is it all put together? Andre Drummond is going to get your points and rebounds. But I think trading for Andre Drummond, this team somehow gets to a 7 spot and you re-sign Andre Drummond, then guess what? Your cap has been killed. All the cap space you have, all the flexibility you have is now gone because your unit and what we're basing your franchise off of is Andre Drummond, Gordon Hayward, and LaMelo Ball with a sprinkle of Terry Rozier's $20 million contract that you can dangle. I'm not trading Devontae Graham because he only makes $4 million. He makes $2 million this year and $4 million next year. I'm not trading that. You're not going to find the right value. If you're Charlotte, and here's what Charlotte should do in the situation, just chill out. If you make the playoffs this year, it's a beautiful thing. You have cap space over the summer and a whole bunch of young guys in this roster. Just do it. You have LaMelo Ball, and people are going to want to play with a pass first point guard. You can go out and go find something decent in the offseason. There are plenty of guys who can fill that role. And if not, guess what? The Hornets have had a really good track history of playing guys in Greensboro. Devontae Graham played for there. Jalen McDaniels is now back in the main roster, played there. The Martins, I mean, you got to think Caleb Martin's played his time down in Greensboro. Plenty of guys have played in Greensboro and have come to Charlotte and done pretty well. All right. And 2, with Nick Richards being demoted down, sent down to Orlando, Greensboro today, that allows Nick Richards to get more playing time. Richards is going to find more ways to be, I think, more useful down there in Greensboro than he is in the main roster because Nick Richards scored a grand total 11 points this season. All right. You got to give, like I said, with the Charlotte Hornets with Vernon Carey, who's putting up 20. I think he's leading the G League bubble and scoring around 25 a game. Let him rock, let him ride, let him get the experience and playing time. Charlotte's going to need him down the stretch. Trading them for Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee, whatever you're talking about trading for is not going to help the team. It's helping everything in the short term. The goal in Charlotte is the long ball, not the short term. All right. Last before I check up out of here for the night, and we do Beyond the Buzz tomorrow, and then back for Hornets on Friday night. We'll do another NBA show on Friday as well too, because we're not sure if the Hornets are going to play on Saturday. Last topic of the night before I check up out of here because it's been almost 47 minutes tonight. Listen, we've talked about the All-Star game. We talked about unsung players. Let's talk about the guy who's been arguably. Let's talk about MVP real quick. Let's talk MVP, and then we'll check out for the night. All right. Joel Embiid in Philadelphia has been the best player in the NBA this season. I think between him and LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, those are the 3 best players when it comes to MVP 1, 2, and 3. But what other guys should get nominations? I think Donovan Mitchell of Utah should get a lot of consideration. The Jazz have the best record in the NBA, and Donovan Mitchell has been playing out of his mind all season. The same way with Steph Curry out in Golden State, because Curry's numbers this year are comparable to the MVP numbers he had when he was the MVP a few years ago. The difference is that Golden State's not destroying the entire NBA, and they're actually playing better basketball than what it is. People get convoluted when it comes to what the MVP award really means. What is the MVP award is about the team, the player that's the most valuable to his team. If you take that player away, what does that team turn itself into? We watched the last 2 years how Giannis has basically taken over this entire league, and look at the numbers he's put up. I mean, last year he was the MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year, and the Bucks would have not gotten as far as they would have if Giannis would have been anywhere off this roster. So if you look at for example, what the Lakers have done with LeBron James, we talk about LeBron could have won it 10 other times throughout his career. I'm not going to disagree with that. I mean, but he still has Anthony Davis on his side this year. All right, Nikola Jokic, I think, has been brilliant all year. Jamal Murray has not been bubble Jamal Murray. He had flashes of it tonight. But Jamal Murray hasn't been completely consistent all year. Michael Porter Jr. has been in foul troubles, had issues with COVID, and has not taken that leap that everybody's expected him to do. Will Barton's been hurt. Paul Millsap's been hurt. So the Joker's been doing this almost single-handedly all season. What Embiid has done is kind of stop shooting 3-pointers and actually got himself to play to a back to the basket center. And the Sixers are dominating the Eastern Conference right now. Great. Anybody in Brooklyn doesn't count because all three of them cancel each other out. But what Steph Curry's doing in Oakland is been great because Andrew Wiggins is playing better basketball. Kelly Oubre decided to hit a shot this month, and Draymond Green does more for media talking than he does actual basketball play. Even though I think he has 16 assists the other night. Curry's been a one-man scoring machine all season. The same way I look at Donovan Mitchell in Utah. Now why Mitchell shouldn't get enough love is because Donovan Mitchell gets more conversation from Shaq about talking about Donovan Mitchell than Donovan Mitchell gets being on the floor. I don't know what has gotten into Donovan Mitchell this year, but listen, I think he's getting tired of people calling him underrated or not as good as people make him out to be, or he's just not at that elite level. Yes, Donovan has not had that signature playoff win, and I think that's what's holding him back from being considered an elite player. But what Donovan Mitchell has been doing this year on the only team that's got an 80% win percentage this year, and what Mitchell has been doing this year has been, I think, he's having a career year. He's only 6'1" for crying out loud. But what he's been doing this year, 24 points, 5 rebounds, almost 5 assists and 5 rebounds a game, 4.3 runs, excuse me. But Mitchell has put up numbers everywhere. He's put up the big shots. When you ask him to play huge, he's played huge. If he's not scoring some nights, he's doing it on the other ends. He's getting the free throw line. His three-point shot has been better than most seasons. He's just been more efficient this year. And like I said, I think him and Steph should be in the backcourt in the All-Star game starting. Like I said, Steph Curry, his numbers are almost eerily similar to what he put up at the MVP season. So I think he's the other guy I can consider for consideration as well, too. So, all right, everybody, we've been on the air for almost 50 minutes tonight. So I appreciate everybody in the chat tonight. Follow me on Twitter at DannyDANY #3 Thompson on Twitter. Beyond the Buzz will be on Facebook Live and YouTube tomorrow night, as well as Zingo TV, I-95 Sports at 9 p.m. tomorrow night. And listen, we don't know what the Hornets are doing yet. To give everybody an update of what's going on with the Hornets right now. So what is going on is the Hornets are in COVID protocol. Their last 2 games have been postponed, which was the game against Chicago on Wednesday night, which was rescheduled for the Detroit game tonight, and the Denver game, which was scheduled for Friday night, which is now I think they're playing Cleveland instead. Those 2 games have been postponed, and Charlotte won't be back on the floor until potentially Saturday. So with them being on the show Saturday, we'll talk Friday night. I'll probably come out a little bit earlier Friday. Preview for the games for the weekend. Take some more chats. You never might know who might stop by. Maybe if Mike Patton has a little bit of free time, we'll get Mike Patton to stop by and talk some hoops on Friday night. So like I said, check me out Friday. I said this is a little preview run of what's going to happen in the future. So there'll be way more NBA shows in the future. I don't know if my lovely other half is going to step herself out tonight and say hi once again, but appreciate everybody for stopping through. Like I said, we'll check you guys out on Friday. Check out Beyond the Buzz tomorrow with myself and Kyle Nash. Oh, you said, well, hello. As my fiance comes out with her bonnet on. Gotta love this woman. All right. For myself, Precious, and her bonnet, we'll catch you guys on Friday night. Stay safe out there. It's COVID season, y'all.